Moving to our next session, which is for our next focal language, which is Dogri. It's titled Dogri Coming to Terms, From the Folk to the Contemporary in Dogri Literature. This session will be a conversation on Dogri theatre, literature in its continuity from folk to modern, and the folk song tradition. For this session, please join me in welcoming Balwant Thakur. Is one of the most creative theatre directors of the country and has 12 original plays to his credit. He has been awarded with the Sangeet Natak Academy Award for Direction in Theatre. He has also been honored with the title Duggar Ratan and has been conferred with the Padma Shri Award in 2013. His plays include Ghumai, Chauraha, and Mahabhoj, amongst many others, and have been staged across the world. He is currently working as Regional Director cum Consultant in Indian Council for Cultural Relations, Ministry of External Affairs. Please join me in extending him a very warm welcome. Lalit Mangotra is a Dogri writer working for the development and promotion of Dogri for more than 3 decades. Physicist by profession, he has received the Sahitya Academy Award and the Jammu and Kashmir State Award for his outstanding contribution to literature and culture. He has authored 10 books across short stories, essays, drama, literary criticism, and poetry. Lalit Mangotra has played a leading role in integrating Dogri through modern technology. This includes the creation of a Dogri English Dogri online dictionary. Presently, he is convener of Dogri Advisory Board and a member of the Executive Board of the Sahitya Academy. Please give him a huge round of applause. Promila Manhas is a Dogri writer and poet. She has been associated with literary assignments and projects of Sahitya Academy and National Translation Mission. She is a literary translator who has translated poetry and prose from other languages into Dogri and also from Dogri to English. She is a lecturer of botany in the School of Education Department of the State Government of Jammu and Kashmir. She also works as a newscaster cum translator with Radio Kashmir and a news anchor with Doordarshan Jammu. Please join me in extending her a very warm welcome.
Good afternoon and namaskar. Dogri literature and Dogri theatre are quite young. In this session, we'll be covering the journey of Dogri theatre and Dogri literature from folk to the contemporary. Promila Manhas would be speaking and would also be giving a demonstration on Dogri folk. She'll be singing some Dogri folk songs. And Balwant Thakur would be speaking on Dogri theatre. I'll be covering Dogri literature part. Since all three of us have different topics amongst ourselves, so we will not enter into discussion from the very beginning. We will speak on the 3 topics separately, and then later on a discussion could follow. First of all, first thing first, I would request Promila Manhas to speak on Dogri folk and also give you a glimpse of the Dogri folk songs through her singing. Please remember that she is not a professional folk singer.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. A warm good afternoon to all of you. Dogri is an offshoot of Indo-Aryan linguistic stock, is the language of my heart, my breath. It's a moment of pride that I'm here to deliberate upon the various aspects of Dogri folk songs. The Dogri folk songs have a very rich tradition which is deeply rooted and embedded in the centuries-old religious customs and practices. The faiths, circumstantial considerations, customs, traditions, beliefs, ceremonies, festivals, interactions, and other values of life. Before I proceed and take a plunge into the vastitude of Dogri folk songs, I would like to touch base with certain typical and distinctive features which they possess. We are blessed to have them in abundance. We have songs for almost every customary observance, for every ritual, every festivity, for seasons. And dear audience, I'm not being extravagant if I say that from the conception of a fetus in the mother's womb, its birth, childhood, adulthood, falling in love, yearning for each other, marriage, the joyous celebration at bride and bridegroom's place, the challenging hard realities of life, to the death of an individual and obsequy, complemental folk songs had ever been there as an image of the society. Mobility is their amazing characteristic feature. They have traveled from one place to another and have evolved with additions at one end and deletions at the other. The main verse forms are folk ballads, folk songs, and bhags. The folk ballads are the long narrative poems classified into karaks, bars, and love ballads. Karaks are mainly narratives of the lives of those great men and women who, by their self-sacrifice and deeds, have attained godhood and are deified in their land. Karaks of Baba Jitto, Data Ranpat, Baba Siddh Gaurya are very popular. Karaks are sung by jogis and gararis. Jogis sing while playing instrument called king and chakra. The accompanying instrument of a garari is drum. Bars are sung by daresas, the word derived from darvesh, wandering fakirs. The heroes of their bars were mostly Hindu warriors. The bars are sung to commemorate incidents of valor. Veera Ras is dominant in the first half, but there is a predominance of Karuna Ras as well. And the two rasas have a tremendous appeal. Bars of Zorawar Singh, Mia Dido, Ram Singh Patania narrates the chronology of their lives. We also have ballads of love called Premagatha, like that of Banki Gaddan, enshrining the love of Raja Sansar Chand of Nagar Court for a Gaddi woman. Then there are myriad folk songs, and it's really a challenge to classify them. And if at all they are classified, it's difficult to incorporate all of the representative folk songs in a 15 minutes time. We have ceremonial songs or sanskar geet sung on the occasions like birth, marriage, and even death. Bihai, Suhag, Ghodi, Chand, Sitniya, Badawa, Boliyan, Aarti Bardana are the typical ones. Suhags are the songs sung at a bride's place. And for almost every big or small marriage ritual, we have different suhags. In one of them, which I'm going to sing for you, the bride weeps when she gets beautifully designed bracelets from her parents. It goes like this. कंगना कड़ाई तेरे मापिया पे जे हो मापिया पे जे ऊपर रोक रगैया दिया दिया लोई गोरी पैनान लगी है नैन ओए मतवारे. In another suhag, mother tells her daughter to hide herself because two banjaras have turned up from the downtown where her in-laws reside. She says, "Why should I hide? It's the father, uncle, brother who called them up." It goes like this. Khalla desa माए मेरड़िए दो बंजारे आए खल्ला देसा माए मेरड़िए दो बंजारे आए छपी जा छपी जा छपी जा छपी जा तिए मेरड़िए तेरे सौरे दाए कियां छप्पा माए मेरड़िए बाबल सदे दे आए. Then, Bisanpatas are Vishnupadas. Artis, Gujaris, Bhaints, Bhajans are the forms of the devotional songs we have. Ritugit are the songs connected with the seasons called variously as Barama, Ritadiyan, Marua, Chinja and Dholuru. Barama is the name given to the songs describing the seasons of 12 months, vis-a-vis the emotional state of a woman separated from her husband. I'm going to sing 2 lines of a Barama where the wife urges her husband who is serving in the king's army not to leave her in any of the months, and she quotes good number of reasons for that. Arni jayo kenta Tuppa dadiyan Arni jayo kenta Tuppa dadiyan Sonani jayo kenta Pondi puhar. Our love songs are bubbling with the divine spate of love. There is sweetness, beauty, and unrestrained gushing of a heart, which is totally devoid of artifice and ostentation. We have Albelua, we have Chan, a group of typical romantic songs where the girl is desperate to meet her beloved. I'm going to sing a Chan for you. Chanmara chade aao par Rajouriya. Rajouri is a place. Chanmara chade aao par Rajouriya. Bani jaya pakhrute mili jaya choriya. मिलना जरूर मेरी जान हो बड़ा गे बसोस मेरी जानो चन्न माड़ा चढ़े आओ पर रे आसिया थोड़ा थोड़ा मंदा चन्ना मती है दो आसियो मिलना जरूर मेरी जानो बड़ा गे बसोस मेरी जानो. The longing and viyog for the lover is reflected in Jhanjhoti. Another type of love songs called Geetadu Katha are like English ballads with episodes of love, family feud and battle as their subjects. Kunju Chenchlo, Padan Kunju, Gilmu Paggan are some of the examples. I wash clothes and I shed tears. Oh Kunju, thoughts of you torture me. We also have recreational and entertainment songs like Bhangra, Tilkni, Kikli, Kud and Phumni, Chal or Chauki, Jagarna and Pheri, to name a few. Songs, the children's songs, they cover their childhood, adolescence, their relational aspect with the peers and environment, and sports activities as a whole. So many lullabies and cradle songs are part of the Dogri folk. Then, festive songs for the festivals and days of religious observances. Some of these are Rade, Naratte, Lodi, Holi, Bachadwa, Drubdi, Pugga, Karwa Chauth, and Tulsi Puja. There are toil songs which are sung while doing laborious tasks like swadi, swadiyan, runi, galodis or ends. Also have charkha songs and chakki songs. And now, last but not the least, a majestic group of our folk songs called Pak is an absolute amalgamation of words and music in itself. It is group folk song sung without the aid of an instrument, where 5 to 7 singers sit on their feet in chokri, which is also called jodi, with the singers keeping their hands over their ears and carrying the pitch to a crescendo and then bringing it down and then raising it. A symphony of sounds is created. Jodak, faratiyan and murkiyan creates a sort of philharmonic sinfonia. It is very similar to the Western harmony. One number of the group gives a suai and the rest follow him. Their words are very touching. I'm going to translate for you the one which I am going to sing. The king of Chamba tries to lure a beautiful young Gaddan. He says, "In my palace, the most appetizing foods and muslins are waiting for you. Oh Gaddan, come with me." She says, "Oh Raja, I'm happy with whatever little I have. I'm contented with the little joys I have. My hut, my rugged clothes, and maize bread is dear to me." So Pak goes on like this. Suchi bhi dinna, suchi bhi dinna, goriye puri bhi dinna, suchi bhi dinna, goriye puri bhi dinna. Mere kanne chit laya ho, paden diye gadane. Suchi nahi landi ho Raja, puri nahi landi. Suchi nahi landi ho Raja, puri nahi landi. Makkuada todu migi changa ho chambadeya rajeya. Mal mal bi dinna goriye makhmal bi dinna, mal mal bi dinna goriye makhmal bi dinna. Mere kanne chit laya ho, paden diye gadane. Mal mal nahi landi ho ओ राजा मखमल नहीं लैंदी मलमल नहीं लैंदी हो राजा मखमल नहीं लैंदी पट्टू है दा चोलू मिगी चंगा हो चंबदया राजया. So that was a park. The Dogri folk songs had never been into oblivion. They were ever with us and would ever be there till the life exists. Fantasies have not lost their charm. The smiles and tears, humor and wit, fights and submissions, or victorious aspirations and desires of the common man have been displayed in the mirrors of these songs. The Dogri folk is majestic, and it can prove itself to be a strong edifice for the contemporary literature. The Dogri folk songs have sustained. They have traveled from times immemorial through generations. The deeply embedded roots of the folk are an anchor, strong edifice, and a cardinal, cohesive backup source of support and stability for the modern day literature and culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Promila. You
with this and the other is like this. Maho mariye jindadiye Maho mariye jindadiye बार सपाही कियां रोंदे ने बार सपाही कियां रोंदे ने. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Promila. Once more. Okay, so I'll be speaking on Dogri literature from folklore to the present. As Indic literature goes, writing in Dogri is a recent phenomenon, as I told you earlier. It took off from folklore barely 70 to 75 years ago. So Dogri is a very young literature and has evolved to its present day vibrancy. I will attempt here to trace this short but even eventful journey of Dogri literature. Let me first give you a thumbnail sketch of the language itself. Dogri was already an independent language by the 13th century CE. Amir Khusro, 1253 to 1325, in his Masnavi, tells us that Dogri was counted amongst the prominent languages in the contemporary India. The language is now spoken in the land that lies between rivers Chenab and Ravi, that is a part of the present state of Jammu and Kashmir, and the contiguous area of Himachal Pradesh, district Gurdaspur of Punjab, and a few towns of Pakistan. Insofar as the beginnings of the Dogri literature is concerned, you could literally count the number of books published prior to 1940 on the fingers of your hand. This despite a rich oral tradition of folk tales, folk songs and riddles of Dogras. You just had a sample of our folk songs. Of the 5 books published till then, only one was original compilation of bhajans, others being translated from other languages. The foundation of Dogri literature was laid in 1940s when a bunch of dedicated young men of Dogra region took it upon themselves to create literature in Dogri and spread awareness about their language and culture. Thus was born the Dogri Sanstha in 1944. What followed was an intense and concerted effort to write in Dogri. Initially, poetry happened to be the preferred genre and brought instant popularity to the poets. A series of mushairas were held to which people flocked to listen to their favorite poets. The leaders of the literary movement also encouraged writing and staging of Dogri plays. It was recognized that staging plays and holding of mushairas were two most powerful tools to connect with the masses. The themes of the plays were foresightedly and intentionally taken from folk heroes who had fought for justice and laid down their lives to safeguard the rights of peasants. Consequently, there was an upsurge of popularity of these plays as the people readily identified themselves with folk heroes they already revered. The first book of Dogri short stories, written by Bhagwat Prasad Sathe, appeared in 1947, the year of independence, and was aptly titled Pehla Phul, the first bloom. Dogras loved their folk tales handed down from generation to generation, but Sathe did one better. His stories, though rooted in folk tales, appeared to bridge the gap between folk tales and the modern short stories. Let us, for instance, take one of his celebrated stories, Kudmeda Lama, a reproach of daughters-in-law. Jogi Moru, endowed with occult powers, trains his only daughter Kesro in his profession. Kesro is engaged to be married to an adjoining village. The conflict of the story arises when thick clouds appear ominously on a wheat crop standing for harvest, and a bedridden Moru has to send Kesro in his stead to move the clouds away. Kesro saves the village from the impending disaster, but to her consternation, the diverted rains go on to devastate the village of her prospective in-laws. Back home, when she finds her downcast father apprehensive of a reproach from in-laws to be, she rushes to a nearby jungle, never to return. The theme of the story and its supernatural elements are rooted in folk tales. But Moharu's passing on his professional legacy to his daughter, in contrast to the prevailing custom among the men of his ilk, who trained only their sons, has a touch of modernity. We discern this style of interweaving folklore with modern sensibility in most of Sathe's stories. Like a storyteller, Sathe remembered all his stories by heart and always told them without reading from a script. He never faltered nor missed a word or went for any variation. Though in folk style, his stories revolve around the decrepit conditions of women and Dalits in our rural society. Post Sathe short story writers continue to deal with woman-centric themes and portrayal of the oppressed classes of the society, but with a difference. Fiction writing in Dogri was moving away from folk tales. In case of poetry, early Dogri poets carried even a deeper imprint of folk songs on their poetry. Many of them, like Kishan Samalpuri, took a line from the popular folk song and wrote their poem as its extension. Even the themes selected by these poets were inspired by folk songs. Dogras married off their girls at a very young age. Further, traditions ordained that neither the married girls could visit their parents nor anyone from parents' house the married daughters. A bride at the time of her departure from her parental house would be given a piece of sandalwood, a contribution of her parents to her funeral pyre, betokening severance of her relationship with her own people. What aggravated the lot of Dogra Bales was the long separation from their husbands. Army was the major source of employment of Dogra young men, which meant for them posting to far off places and long absences from home. Dogri folk songs give a poignant expression to the pain of young brides on account of separation from their spouses and other kin they loved the most. If such women had a moment or two of respite, it was because of jogis, banjaras, nomads, and you guessed it right, crows. Such wandering souls brought them good tidings of their loved ones. Naturally, these messages of good cheer too find a special place in Dogri folk songs. Many of the early Dogri poets, such as Kishan Samalpuri, Yash Sharma, Padma Sachdev, etc., continue to be influenced by the themes of separation and nostalgia. Not only thematically, even their poetic expressions and styles were influenced by popular Dogri folk songs. They made frequent use of imagery of jogis, banjaras, and crows in their poems. Popularity of many of early poets owes its appeal to their affinity with folk songs. By the end of 1950s, the Dogri literature was set to refine itself, where flights of fancy, romance, and traditional had been given prominence. Dogri writers now began to connect with the ground realities, adopting common man's concerns as subject of their works. Books were written about oppression of women and backward classes. As the 1960s passed into history, a growing maturity in writing skills and selection of topics could well be perceived. By that time, numerous new authors, including more than 100 poets, had come into the field. Dogri fiction was heralded by the publication of three woman centric novels in 1960. Another milestone of 1960s was that Sahitya Akademi accorded recognition to Dogri language. The changing milieu and certain events during the period speeded up Dogri writing. One was the publication of two Dogri periodicals. Then in 1970, the Sahitya Akademi awarded a Dogri work for the first time. In the 1970s and 80s, Dogri Hindi and Dogri dictionaries were brought out. As many as 5 Dogri writers' conferences were held in 1980s. The year 1986 saw Dogri being included as a subject for the civil services examination, and the National Book Trust began to publish translations of Dogri books. In the decade that followed, 3 conferences were held on Dogri writings on women. Then there is a little more detail about the intervening period, which I can leave. I have to leave some time for Balwant ji to speak on theatre. So as the year 1980 came to an end, the state of Jammu Kashmir, this is an important phase which influenced the literature in Jammu and Kashmir, I would say. As the 1980s came to an end, the state of Jammu and Kashmir faced militancy, violence, and terrorism not seen before. Lakhs of Kashmiri Pandits had to leave their homes and seek refuge in Jammu. Dogri writers could not remain untouched by the turmoil all around. Countless short stories and poems were written, evoking the terrible aftermath of violence. Vedrahi's cross-firing, Manoj's Adhi Rati de Darwaje di Thor, the midnight's knock at the door, Bandhu Sharma's Minar Darya de Rajnath, are some of the memorable stories written during that period. In the same vein, Padma Sachdev's Ronde Nyane, Crying Babes, Taras Malpuri's Barudi Liakhdiyan, and Muhammad Yasin Beg's Zulchu are heart-rending poems on the trauma of mindless violence. The end of the last century and the beginning of the current one saw the transformation wrought by globalization and rising consumerism in the lifestyle. Man today is confronted by turbulence caused by changing ethos, breaking relationships, and mutating sensibilities. Dogri short stories, novels, and poetry depict the inner and outer worlds of man facing these conditions. Dogri literature is competently depicting the influence of external social and political atmosphere on the thinking and spirituality of man that occur on account of clash of these forces. The exponential increase in the number of Dogri books being published and the frequent literary and cultural activities are strong indications of the vibrancy of language and the speed of development that this young literary language has attained. Thank you very much. Now I'll invite Balwant Thakur ji, who is a very well known name in the theatre throughout the country. He will trace the development of Dogri literature and is taking off from the folk theatre to the modern theatre. Balwant ji.
I don't think there's much to say after Promila's demonstration of folk songs of Jammu. I think most of my work she has done. Reason being that my work and this contemporary Dogri theatre is more relying on the traditional performing arts of Jammu. And you have just heard some beautiful songs, some narratives. And in fact, the theatre which is known outside Jammu and Kashmir, which is quite popular, the term Dogri theatre, and it's being performed all over. No theatre festival in India is now held without inclusion of a Dogri play. This is what we have achieved in all these years. And outside India also, I'll start with that thing, that Dogri, one of Dogri play Ghumai, it made it to the Frankfurt International. There was the first Indian play making it to that festival. And when we look at the history, from the point we started, I think we are the youngest Indian language that way. We're the youngest language theatre as such. But over the years, I think looking at that Dogri theatre has really done wonders in coming up to the national level mainstream theatre happenings. The first play which came it came in 1935. First Dogri Theatre play came in 1935, and it took almost 15 years for the second play to come. And afterwards, there was a time when Dogri Sanstha came into existence, and it was the time when everybody wanted to contribute, and all writers started experimenting with new texts, new themes, and this was the time when people started looking at what's happening all over in other parts of the country. They started adapting those things. I don't think Dogri doesn't have any, we have plays from Western translations to the languages. We have Bengali plays, we have Marathi plays translated into Dogri, and this is how the Dogri theatre started playing all over. Late Vidyaratan Khajuria, Vishwanath Khajuria, was the pioneer of Dogri drama. His Dogri play Achut not only brought to the fore the pathos of the life of the unaccepted lot, but also highlighted the double standards of people in different capacities, whether it was Lambardar, a Pujari, or anyone who enjoyed the power. The task was taken up by him during the summer holidays. Uh, Vishwanath Khajuria, by profession, has been a teacher, and he was posted to a hilly village where he noticed certain things, and he thought of making a play out of those incidents. Uh, During his summer holiday in Duddu area in Tehsil Ramnagar, he came to know about sex exploitation and the associated diseases people suffered. His play caused a strong resentment among the higher ups. Facing accusations, he braved all odds and after some year wrote and staged the second Dogri drama, Baba Jitto. The role of a martyr worshipped as a god, and it was performed by Khajuria himself. This inspired others to contribute their bit, and the theatre movement, and this is how the theatre movement in the region started. Uh, Before 1950, we find only two plays worth mentioning were Achut, that the Achut one this with by Vishwanath Khajuria, and Baba Jitto again in 1948. It was the inception of Dogri Sanstha that Dogri movement got off to start, and Dogri plays were written and staged. Professor Ramnath Shastri was associated with the movement, and the play was a great success. The play, which was a co-authored play by Professor Ramnath Shastri, Deenubhai Pant, and Ramkumar Abrol, was the play Namagram. It was about the life of a progressive Subedar who wants to bring about awakening. This play brought about the awakening in the minds of Dogras. This play also catches up with the rural masses who visualize progressive villagers with new ideas and concepts. Dinubhai Pant came with the play Sarpanch, which also falls under the category because through this play, the significant folk traditions were highlighted. It was after 1948, the other writers took up the venture of writing Dogri, even through an attempt was made by Vishwanath Khajuria ji. Writers started writing, even translating Dogri from other languages. Achut, Baba Jitto, Namagra, and Sarpanch plays had already been made the mark on the audience. In Deri, by Ramkumar Abrol, he again, here again, the suffocation of a person who raises the voice against the oppressor was highlighted. In Allad Veer, Goli Veer Sipahi, written by N.D. Jomwal, romanticism is beautifully portrayed in Kunju Chanchulo, which depicts the sacrifice of Chanchulo on hearing the death of her lover Kunju in the battlefield. In Tarende Athru by Vedrahi, evils of marrying a girl half the age is projected, and Dori highlights the evils of marriage in relatives. In Panch Parashmar, highlights the importance of panchayats. In another play which came afterwards was Ik Pashama Badlita by Madan Mohan Sharma, brings forth his own frustration after seeing life very closely, and who fears, who for fear of dejection, he could not muster courage to meet people. In another play, Janor, he had chosen an entirely different theme, that of a wild trait of a human being. It also begins with a man adopts an orphan girl, brings her up, and then wants to marry her because he does not want to depart with her. This was something entirely different for the people of Jammu, who regarded the girl as Devis. They were shocked to read such a vulgar theme, and but it was staged later, and it was appreciated by some elitist class of the audience. Then came Mandalik by Narsingh Tejumwal, which was about the kings. Yatru by Madan Mohan Sharma again did not impress. Yatru was basically a radio play depicting realities of life. Play Jeene Di Kaid by Professor Lalit Mangotra and Chaman Arora throws the light in the economic pressures on one is faced in the modern days when life changes is. We also had influences from other places when third theatre was started by Bahadur Sarkar. And Dogri writers also attempted some plays. They also started writing with absurd themes. Kala Suraj was one of the play written by Manmohan Singh. And Manmohan Singh wrote this play, and it was also, I think, it was more a play where you are reflecting upon the day-to-day happenings. And such kind of plays do evoke a lot of audience response, but they do not live for a long, because you are talking about today's happening, and then after some times your theme becomes irrelevant also. This way, I would like to mention that most of the writers, they started writing, everybody started experimenting, but nothing moved out of the space. That Jammu theatre, the Dogri theatre remained in the confinements of Jammu region only. It was only in the year 1986 when we experimented with the folk story called Baba Jitto, and tried to simulate so many performing art traditions, narrative traditions of Jammu, and then created a performance out of it. That was the first play which came out of Jammu, and it was staged at a national festival. And this is how Jammu theatre came in the major national limelight. And this followed, others also started following it, and then Deepak Kumar brought a play called Din Bar. This one theatre director, Mushtaq Kak, he brought a play, Devyani, and this is how theatre started moving out of Jammu. Jammu, our Dogri theatre is more rooted in the soil of Jammu. In nutshell, I want to say that whatever we borrowed from outside, watching others, the new emerging trends in writings and all, when they started experimenting the similar things in Dogri theatre, that couldn't survive for long. And the plays which came out of those were rooted in the soil of Jammu, they started gaining popularity, and a lot of acceptance was there. I will cite just one example. In the play Baba Jitto is the longest living theatre play as of now in the country. It's now been 32 years that play is being performed regularly. I would like to stress here that, see, when we try to experiment the themes where people relate themselves, we try to express with them with certain forms which relates to them, I think that those can really make a difference. This is how this Dogri theatre in Jammu is trying to see. Instead of trying to imitate others, whenever we get attracted to the mainstream theatre, the theatre being performed outside, we try to copy the similar things and try to experiment in our own local language and with our own people. There's a class, you attract a particular small group, those who start appreciating you, but slowly and slowly you find that such kind of experiments hardly sustain unless until you go and reflect upon your local things. This is the contemporary scene of Jammu. And Jammu, and particularly Dogri Theatre, is more relying on local themes. I'll cite all the popular plays which came out of Jammu are based on the folk tales of Jammu. Be it Baba Jitto, be it Ghumai, be it Kunju Chanchalo, be it Sarpanch. They're all based on folk tales. And most importantly, the folk tales were not about rituals and the tales. They were there were social themes in those plays. That's how they were relevant, and there was a universal appeal in those plays. And I wanted as of now, one of the most popular play which has been till date is Ghumai. I think people might have heard about that. No theatre festival in India is where we have not seen Ghumai is not performed. Ghumai has represented India in Russia, in Germany, in Hungary, in Poland. And I just like to narrate the story of Ghumai, how a small tale one can, it's also a folk tale, how a small folk tale can bring a universal appeal and can be the popular theatrical experiment. It is based on a popular folk tale called Lade Ladi the Tuck. We in Mata Vaishno Devi Hills, we have a place called Tikri. This tale comes from that site. Is known as Lade Ladi the Tuck. Ghumai, the play, is named after traditional singing of form of the Dogra culture, where bride sings when she leaves her parents' house during her marriage. The song is an emotional outburst of the bride, wherein she acknowledges her gratitude to her relations. Promila ji, I think, has sung something similar to this Ghumai also, but not exactly Ghumai, but some elements of Bhak is also there in Ghumai. The play commences with a Vidai scene after the marriage ceremonies are over and the bride is riding Doli on way to her in-laws' place. Immediately, the tough climb begins. The thirsty Dulhan asks for water. But her request is taken in vain by the accompanying marriage party, and nobody pays any heed to it. As the track becomes difficult to climb, her thirst increases, and repeated calls for water end up in the assurance that she will get water at the next available source. Atop mountain, when they reach at the top, bride is unable to bear the thrust and the doli is put down. Bridegroom asks Baratis to arrange for water. In quest for water, they see a water source which is miles deep down in a nala where it is impossible to reach. Repeated requests of the bridegroom are met with a plea that job requires superhuman strength, hence not possible. Seeing the pitiable plight of the bride, a young man agrees to fetch the water. All warn him that he will fail to achieve the impossible. During discussions, they come into argument. The bridegroom, in an insultant tone, bets that if the young man succeeds in bringing the water in one go, the bride will be given to him. Thus begins the struggle for water. The young man, jumping, falling from boulders, puts his life in extreme danger and succeeds in bringing the water. By the time the bride quenches her thirst, the young man falls dead out of sheer exhaustion. The Baratis get ready to proceed with Doli, but bride jumps out of Doli and declares herself a widow. She declares that she won't go any further. All request the bridegroom fails to change her mind. The bride gives a Ghumai with the significance of human relationship over the rituals and bonds of bedding ceremony. So this is how we have been taking themes from the folk and then trying to uh, use all those singing, music traditions into one package and making it a universal theatrical experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Actually, we have overshot the time. And if you want to discuss about anything, if you are curious to know about anything, there is a tea break. We will be meeting in the foyer, and there we can have discussion and we can share information. Thank you very much.